the journey continues on these Monday mindfulness meditations. I don't know about all of you, but I'm sure you are with me in the deep concern for what is happening in our world. So let's take it into our practice today, because we need to have the stability of a practice like this to meet the moment of the unraveling that's taking place. We've been talking a lot about poison the last couple of weeks, the transformation of poison into wisdom, relating to the beautiful mandala teachings of the 5 Buddha families. And in a sense, you could say that what's happening in our collective experience is like a poison rising up into the collective. Sort of like an abscess coming to a head, perhaps, but maybe that's not big enough to graphically describe what is actually happening here. But what is the blessing of this tragedy and horror that is unfolding on so many levels is the awareness that we are coming into collectively, the awareness of the poison, the awareness of what it is that needs to transform. We can't heal anything unless we know what it is, unless we see it clearly, unless we have faced into it, both out there and in here. So this is the process of transforming poison into wisdom. Just to kind of go back over it, let's really invoke the wisdom awareness, because the in order to transform that poison into wisdom, what is the key to that is awareness, mindfulness, being aware of what is happening as it's happening and not turning away from it. So that awareness is such a key. And in the case of anger and hatred, when we bring awareness to that energy through our practice, the wisdom that is inherent in that, according to the 5 Buddha family teachings, is the wisdom of mirror-like wisdom, seeing clearly, knowing clearly what is. And in the case of, I'm just going to go through these 5 poisons to remind us what the wisdom inherent in them is. The wisdom within the energy of pride is equanimity, the wisdom of equanimity. And the wisdom within the energy of desire or greed is discernment, the wisdom of discernment. And the wisdom connected to competition and jealousy is called all-accomplishing wisdom. And the wisdom that's connected to ignorance which is, in a sense, the beginning. Ignorance is kind of where it all begins, just like that. And that ignorance is transformed through awareness into a vast spaciousness that is completely empty of a separate self, but full of all that arises, able to be with it all. So these wisdoms and these poisons make up the whole of our human experience. And when we get caught in our reactivity, we get triggered, and those reactive emotions like anger arise. The self-preservation instinct and all those things get triggered. But through the fabric of our awakened awareness that we cultivate in the practice of meditation, the wisdom can arise along with compassion, which is really our true nature. So within each of those wisdoms and poisons is this energy of compassion that is truly the gift of being a human being. We have the capacity to care. And when we access that, and when we access our caring for what we love, our gifts can come out and express themselves in wise ways, non-reactive ways, responsive ways. So that karuna, that's the word in Sanskrit for compassion, which we talked about at the beginning of this whole beginning of our Monday mindfulness meditations. Karuna, I was kind of reimagining coronavirus as coronavirus. That karuna, that compassion with wisdom can give us the energy to be with the eruption of violence on our streets, the death of George Floyd, and racism in America rearing its head to be dealt with. What I wrote in the full moon newsletter that's going out today is that racism, systemic racism, stretches into every corner of society, along with the inseparability of the rape of women, the rape of the earth, and the oppression of indigenous peoples by colonizer cultures, fueled by white superiority, supremacy, and greed. The attitude of domination at the center of the devastation and destruction of the earth's life force is the real virus we are confronting. So I'm inviting us to practice in a way that will give us the fuel that we need to meet these energies and to not be silenced anymore into complacency, ignoring, especially as white people, which we are, all of us, do believe. We have inherent privilege, inherent inherent privilege, let's just leave it at that, that comes with having being white. And this kind of attitude that we carry with us without even knowing. So again, to apply our awareness to the systemic issues within ourselves that are contributing to this this new form of the virus, which in fact is not very new. It's been there all along. This is the poison. So perhaps it is time to give thanks, you know, for the deaths that have, the sacrifices that have been made, so that we can see more clearly where the work of transformation is called for. This isn't a theoretical situation anymore. It wasn't with climate change, and it wasn't with coronavirus. It still isn't with those things. Now we have this new layer which has needed to come forth. I spent Saturday educating myself more about all of this, and Sunday crying. And I am feeling that emotion right now, talking with you. In order to transform our poisons, we have to be willing to feel it, and not just skirt around it. So this is also where Sangha community can be very helpful. When it's hard, that work of transformation is difficult to go into. So we take another breath and we return when that emotion takes over. But to feel it is the way to get to the core. And it takes courage to be willing to practice like this. It's not for the faint-hearted. We need to practice now as if our lives depended on it. Because they do. This is how I see it anyway. This is how I see the assignment of our times. To see clearly what our part is in the work of transformation and awakening, and to take care of ourselves in the process so that we can really be effective and that we can really make the change. We can sit around talking about it for a real long time and nothing changes. So as we go into the practice today, I want us to sit up. Really put attention on our posture. No slouching. You know, no kind of sliding around. It's important, of course, to be comfortable or we won't meditate. But it's also important to sit up, to stay awake, to be with what is arising, and to have our body, our temple of our body, support that process. So we sit in such a way that the breath can move freely When tension arises, we feel there's tension in our body. We take another breath, we breathe into it. It's amazing how much we'll release just through our conscious breath. But we find a position that we can sit in without jiggling around, without getting up and walking around and answering the phone or, checking the time or doing any of the things that would distract us and do. But for the period of time that we have assigned for the meditation to arrive with full awareness and to make sure that our posture is reflecting that. So if you need a cushion back behind your back or under your knees, you get that, you set yourself up, you put your feet on the floor or you fold them underneath you, whatever it is that you're doing. And you take it as refuge in the storm, this precious body we've been given. And we reset our intention every single time we come down to our sitting, meeting the moment fully. And then we find our breath. Again, this precious fuel that moves through us and around us and connects us with all of life. The breath is a profound gift and tool to bring us back into the present moment. So when all of that stuff is going on, we can come back to a place that is safe, that is connected, that is where we can find healing. Because the breath also has a great capacity to heal trauma. That's why we place our awareness on our breath. And we don't follow after all of the thoughts and feelings during the period of practice of mindfulness. They come and they go. They arise and they fall away. And many of them, as I've said before, really do fall away. Those insistent thoughts and feelings and emotions and lists and things that we think we have to do. What remains is the deep-hearted caring, the real places where the real work is needed. But I've worked with former combatants and ex-child soldiers in places like Liberia and Congo, and the practice of just returning over and over to the breath has been profoundly healing for people who are carrying deep PTSD. And we all carry that, and we're all being triggered right now. We all have work to do. So let's use the breath wisely and compassionately to take us where we need to go, trusting that the process of transformation, we don't have to figure it out. It will happen as we apply ourselves to the practice. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Thank you.